Friends, we have big news out there. There are two major disease outbreaks across the United States. People have now contracted the bird flu. This is something we've been warning about and worrying about for quite a while. And we'll talk about why that is very concerning, as well as a lot of the unknowns that we don't know just yet that could make it a lot less serious than what we thought it might be, but reasons why officials are very concerned with the high mortality rate and such like that. But we'll talk about some of the mitigating factors there. But we also have a major outbreak of TB, so that the Long Beach, California city has declared a state of emergency. 14 cases there, and TB is something that we do have, and we do know what that is, and it is very, very bad. We do not want that in this country, and it is a big, big problem. It's highly, highly infectious. We got a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade. I have traveled quite a bit overseas in TB-infected countries, and I have a little bit of experience with that. I've been tested on multiple occasions for TB, and it's a concerning thing. I have been inoculated against TB at one point. I did let the relapse, and I think I'm actually currently not covered against that. And I'll talk you through the testing process and what's going on with that too, because it's really big. So let's start there. TB. It is human, and it is highly infectious. In third world countries, this spreads from person to person very easily, and it's really, really nasty. It is treatable, but it's a 6-month round of antibiotics. You got to keep taking the antibiotics again and again and again and again. The problem is TB hides in your skin, okay? It hides in your skin, and then if you treat it with antibiotics, if it's in your skin, you got to wait until all those layers of skin peel off, essentially. You know, we're always shedding skin. We're like snakes, you know, so a lot of dust in buildings and stuff like that, it's actually skin particles. But, you know, you have to go 6 months of constantly making sure that the TB in your system is not getting into the new layers of skin. And if you stop that course of antibiotics, or if you're just, you don't realize you have TB and you're healthy, it will hide in your skin and wait for you to get your immune system compromised. And if your immune system is compromised, then the TB will flare up and potentially kill you. And that's a big problem. You can treat it with antibiotics just to beat it down, but in order to actually get it out of your system completely, it's 6 months of treatment. And like I said, so people can have it without realizing they have it, and it's hiding in their skin, and they can actually pass off some of that to the next person. And so you have these people that don't have any symptoms, they're passing it along, and then when it hits somebody who's elderly, someone who has their immune system is compromised in some way, it just kills them. And as it flares up, when you get sick, so you get sick with the flu or you get a cold, it flares up, makes you contagious, and you can spread that to everyone else. You think it's just a flu that you're sharing, but you're actually sharing TB with everybody. So when you have people coughing, that can cause problems where they can contaminate a whole bus. And it's, like I said, highly, highly infectious. You don't have to be that close to somebody in order to get it. So these 14 cases in Long Beach, and we're seeing cases popping up all over the United States. We have all these people coming in from third world countries that haven't been tested for anything, and yet we're just shipping them all over the place, and they are spreading various diseases, and the most deadly and most pernicious of them all is TB. We haven't had TB here in the United States for a very long time. We worked very hard to eradicate it, and here it is again. And most people in the United States are not protected in any way against TB. So they are going to be susceptible to catching this and to spreading it. So this is a very big problem that we're probably going to be talking about more as the days go ahead, because it's hard to imagine that this doesn't spread. Now, we may not see it spreading because, like I said, if you're healthy, your immune system can keep it down. But once you're spreading that to other people, and when you get sick, then you get real sick. It just makes things worse. So you get the common cold, and then you get hospitalized, and you're like, why did this cold take me out? and then they test you, and it's TB. So how they actually test you is they stick a needle into, not into your, that arm, but I have a shirt on. They stick a needle into your arm, like kind of diagonally, and then what they do is they release the testing material as they pull it out very slowly, so it injects it into all the layers of your skin. And then what they do is they draw, circle around the lump. It creates a little lump under your skin. They draw a circle around the lump, and then they wait. You come back a day later or 2 days later, I forget what it is, and then they see if the lump is bigger. Then and it reacts against the TB, so it creates a kind of a puffiness, and the bump will expand because it's detected some TB in some of the skin layers, and then that's how they know that you have TB, and then they make you take the 6 months of antibiotics, which are really expensive, friends. So your health insurance will probably cover it, but that's not something you want to experience. I've known people who have had to go through that regime, and it's a pain in the rear end having to take antibiotics. I think it's every day or every other day or something like that, and staying on that schedule. And just for those of you who are already taking pills, probably not that much bigger of a deal except for the expense of it all. But for people who are not taking pills like me, that's a big hassle. All right, so let's talk about this other outbreak that it has a lot of people really concerned. We have 70 people in Colorado who are now being monitored for bird flu. They tested positive. This is something we've been worried about for quite a while. We've had birds getting sick with bird flu, and then we started seeing mammals, sea lions, animals out in the wild, and then we've seen cows across the United States starting to get bird flu. And the big concern has been when this transfers over to humans, that's going to be a big, big problem. And the reason why they consider it to be such a problem is the fact is that people have been getting bird flu. I mean, this isn't like people don't get it. It's just very few people get it. There have been 254 cases between 2003 and 2024. 254 cases in humans. 141 of them were fatal. And if you do the math on your envelope right there, that's 56% mortality rate. And when we compare that to the point whatever percent mortality rate of the cough, you can see how this is a big problem. If that mortality rate is even in the ballpark correct, that makes it almost as deadly as Ebola. Then you combine that with the fact that it's highly, highly infectious. We have cows in like 14 states that now have bird flu. Like, how did that happen, right? It's just spreading like wildfire amongst the cows. Now, I will qualify this with a few things that are like, we don't know these things, and this could make things very different. One, probably the people that were tested for bird flu, for these cases around the world since 2003, we probably only tested people that were really sick, right? Like, why is this person really, really sick? And they started testing them for this, testing them for that. And finally, someone was like, well, why don't we test them for bird flu and see what happens? And then they tested them for bird flu and like, oh, that's what they have. They have bird flu. But how many cases were out there that people got bird flu, but it didn't do anything to them, right? So we saw this with the bias in testing early on with the cough, right? The mortality rate was much higher because we were only looking at people who were really sick. Once we started widespread testing, you saw the mortality rate was actually like really, really minuscule. And that could be the same thing here, but we don't know. And until we actually have enough numbers to understand what's going on, this is probably going to have a lot of people in a tizzy. So if we start seeing bird flu cropping up in a bunch of places, then we may see wide-scale testing. And if we see wide-scale testing, then we're going to see wide-scale governmental panic because they're going to be attaching that mortality rate to how many cases of bird flu we suddenly detected, and extrapolating, 50% of the American population might just die here. And until we start seeing all of those background cases, the cases of people getting it but without having symptoms and people getting it without having serious symptoms, we won't see that mortality rate drop until then. And so that's kind of what we saw with the cough. And we may see a very similar thing here, and there'll be a lot of scare numbers come out. If we start seeing widespread people getting bird flu, that could be a serious problem, and we could be seeing more people getting stuck in their homes for an extended period of time, and all sorts of measures like we saw last time around happen all over again. So be aware that that is on the cusp of things. The other thing I want to say is that these 70 people did test positive with a PCR test, and we've talked about these things to death about that, but we haven't talked about them in a while, and that is that PCR tests have a lot of false positives. When you start talking about a 3-4% false positive rate, up to 5% false positives, and you test 1,000 people, how many people are going to test positive when they don't even have it, right? And that could be the case here too. If they started testing all of the workers, these 70 people could just be false positives. And that's why they need to do the PCR test 2 or 3 times. If someone tests positive on the PCR test, they need to be tested again, and they need to be tested again to make sure that it actually is not a just bad sampling or a bad reaction there. The other thing is, what we're seeing is a lot of these cows are asymptomatic. They're not showing any symptoms, but they're testing positive for bird flu. So it seems like bird flu has become a lot less serious in cattle. Now we are seeing a few cases of cattle dying suddenly, and we're seeing it also getting into the lungs of some of these cows and such, and so that is causing a problem. We're seeing meat sidelined, and we're also seeing that that this may get more serious as they stay infected for a while. We don't know what we don't know, right? So when this crosses over to humans, which it seems like it is right now, we may see this spread like wildfire, and it may be a big nothing burger. It may be a really big problem. People with compromised immune systems are going to be particularly at risk, just like during the cough. And I don't think that locking people up in nursing homes and then sending people who are infected into the nursing home is really a great strategy. So if you're in New York, and you're a public health official, you might want to jot that one down, not to send infected people into facilities that have been isolated, right? Let's just do that, okay? Don't do that again. That was a disaster. With any outbreak, with any disease, the faster we get to getting the majority of people having had it, so that therefore it can't spread anymore. That is when you have a herd of animals, then it creates a large-scale immunity. I'm separating those words so that we don't get kicked off of things here. But if you can read between the lines on what I'm talking about there, that is our best way of dealing with these type of infections that don't do that much damage to individuals that are healthy, but can be a big problem for people who are sick, and they need to be protected. Get all the healthy people to be exposed to it relatively quickly, and so it can burn out. The longer these things cycle in a species, the less serious they become. Now we have the cough going around us, and it's not really causing that many problems. I mean, it's still getting people who are immune compromised, of course, but for healthy people, it's not a big deal. And so we need it to just kind of cycle through and become more normalized, right? So same thing with bird flu, probably, but then again, the mortality rate is pretty starkly high. A lot of these cases were in third world countries, in underdeveloped countries with less medical care. That was good. So that could also be skewing the numbers. We've seen that before. Once you start getting into the United States, Europe, where there's better medical care, you see a lot less fatalities in these cases. And so there's that to consider as well. But both of these outbreaks, the TB outbreak and the bird flu outbreak amongst humans, could be news stories of the year very quickly. We could see these things become the excuse to cause all sorts of removal of freedoms and such like that in the coming months. And for the powers that be, they're desperately looking for some kind of distraction, desperately looking for excuses so that they can do overreaches and everything like that. We should be warned. All right, friends, let me know if you're seeing anything else out there. I will keep you up to date as news comes out on both these outbreaks. And I will be keeping my eye particularly on TB, but I'll also be keeping my eye on what's going on down in Colorado and keep you updated if we do find out that there is widespread testing and that's what's causing this number of people to be under observation. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.